Welcome back, everyone. We're saved the best for last. Brian Graham, PDGA Hall of Famer from 2017's class. And Brian, earlier I stepped Ricky back to 2011 here on the property. I'm going to go back a little more with you. The year was 1996. I was 17 years old. I arrived in Augusta, Georgia for my first time ever because you were running the Amateur World Championships.
I was thinking about that on the way up here today for some reason. I was thinking you were 15, though.
I may have acted like a 15-year-old. I was just 17 because I knew there were certain places we couldn't get into, but it was my first ever World Championships. You're the tournament director. And when I think of Augusta disc golf and the Augusta area, in fact, anywhere in Georgia, I think of Brian Graham. I think of yourself. You've created such an incredible legacy here, and you're still involved with the sport all these years later. How does that feel? Explain that to the world.
It feels pretty good. You know, we started with a small group. You know, disc golf was much smaller back in those days. I think we had 5 or 6 disc golfers in Augusta, one course, and we kind of grew it from there. And, you know, I appreciate the accolades, but the truth is we did it as a group. It was a team effort, all the people here in Augusta. On all the different projects. I was fortunate to have some really good people around me that I could count on whenever I wanted to build a course or run a tournament or whatever.
And speaking of running a tournament, 10 years later, as if Am Worlds isn't a big enough take on, you ran the Professional World Championships, again, here in the Augusta area. What is it about tournament directing and serving the people in the way that you have? What is it about that keeps you coming back for more?
Well, I discovered early on that I was a much better tournament director than I was a player, so that kind of cemented that. But, you know, yes, we ran the 2006 Pro Worlds in Augusta. At that point, I think I had been in the sport 20-plus years and felt like I needed a break. And so my plan in 2006 was to run Worlds and take a year off from the sport. And 6 months later, I was the executive director of the PDGA out here. So my plan didn't quite work out.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. How'd that plan work out for you? Because like you're saying, we're here at the International Disc Golf Center, and this was very much your brainchild, right? You had approached Columbia County. Talk about what it took to get here to have the home of disc golf right here.
Well, going back even further, probably the late 90s, Dan Stork-Roddick, PDGA number 3, wrote an article in what was the disc golf magazine at the time. I think it was Disc Golf World News or may have been even the old paper
Disc Golf Journal.
Yeah. But he wrote an article called A Mecca for Disc Golf. And it was a dream article. It was like, what if? What if we had our own country club? What if we had a place where we could run big tournaments, where we could put the Hall of Fame Museum? And I read that then, and probably like every disc golfer in the country, I was like, yeah, I want that in my city. Well, 7 or 8 years later, I had an opportunity working with Columbia County through the Augusta Sports Council to build a course out here, and I proposed that instead of 1, we build 3, and the project kind of snowballed in a good way. The Hall of Fame reached out and said, yes, we'd like to be a part of this. The PDGA at the time was looking to move back to the United States from Canada. So everything was just kind of happened. It was serendipitous how everything happened. Reached out to the only 3 big manufacturers at the time, Innova, Discraft, DGA. All of them said, yeah, we'd love to be a part of the project. So we were able to get a couple $100,000 appropriated through Columbia County to build the clubhouse, parking lot, this pavilion that we're under today, and we started that project. I think I proposed it to the PDGA board in 2003, and the grand opening was in April 2007.
Yeah, and all of that background leads to, of course, seeing you inducted into the Disc Golf Hall of Fame in 2017. Your name's on a plaque just a few hundred feet away from us. It houses not only the Hall of Fame, but also the Steady Ed Hedrick Museum and the offices here of the PDGA. All these years later, you take a little break, and then you're pulled back into disc golf. Here you are now working with the PDGA yet again. How does disc golf keep pulling you in?
Well, you know, I was the executive director for 10 years, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I loved it. But I'd reached a point where I felt like it was time for somebody else to come in and take the organization on its next journey and step. And so I left PDJ in 2016 after 10 years. Did some other sports ventures. I managed the National Barrel Horse Association, Hippodrome Events Complex, and then I was, the last couple years, for 3 years, I was the CEO of the Greater Augusta Sports Council, which is kind of neat because it was through the Sports Council that we built this facility. And then I was happy at the Sports Council. Joe Chargaloff reached out to me and said, let's have lunch. And we talked, and he said, you know, the sport's really growing. It's booming. We need help managing the growth. Would you consider coming back? And, you know, I gave it some thought, and I still love this sport. The break was nice. I finally got the break that I didn't get in 2006. And so, yeah, I'm back. And I think one of the frustrations I had when I was executive director is we were a small organization, had very limited resources. I couldn't really focus my time on any one area because I was pulled in so many directions. That's changed with my new role, Director of Growth, Memberships and Growth. I can now focus on areas of the sport that I really like, and those are growth areas like youth and education, memberships, senior committee, women's committee, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I've seen you at a number of events and conferences throughout the country that I know you travel to, and you've made so many great inroads at a lot of those places, just promoting the overall growth of disc golf. So it feels like it continues to be on the path that you really love and appreciate. So speaking of the Hall of Fame that's housed right here in the International Disc Golf Center, you're on that wall with so many other incredible individuals that have laid the groundwork for everything that we have in disc golf. What would you tell to someone that's thinking about either visiting the property or learning more about the Hall of Fame? What are some of the things that you would share with them?
Well, it should be on every disc golfer's bucket list. You know, I love history. I love looking at sports and where they came from and how they developed. And, you know, you look at the names on the wall in there, and they're on there, all the people who started the sport, pioneers. I'm very honored to be, you know, on the wall with them. In 2003, I created the Disc Golf Hall of Fame Classic National Tour event. 2003 was the inaugural year of the National Tour. And I did that. I wasn't in the Hall of Fame then, but I did that because I had so much respect for the people in the Hall of Fame and what they did for the sport, and I felt like the sport needed to thank them and you know, shed some light on the Hall of Fame. So that's how that was created. And then years later, when this project came together, it was kind of neat that we were able to bring the Hall of Fame Museum here, and we actually hosted the Hall of Fame Classic here a number of years.
Yeah, and it's been a great family reunion, which I feel like we get that a lot at the World Championships. Yeah. But to have the Hall of Famers always welcome back here for that event has been incredible, and I have so many vivid and fond memories of just even a few years ago at the 2019 iteration of it. What's next? You wear all these different hats, but what's next for you? Is there anything that is still on your bucket list of things you'd like to accomplish? I mean, you're already in the Hall of Fame. You can chill out now, right?
Well, you know, I expressed my frustration with not being able to focus and spend time on certain segments of PDJ work. Now I can do that. So anything having to do with growth of the sport, growth of the PDJ falls under my directorate. So I look forward to really being able to spend the time that I feel is necessary to create a quality youth and education program and programs to promote growth of women in the sport and senior players, etc.
We've had a few majors out here, including the World Championships, along with, like you were just saying, the Hall of Fame. What does it mean to have this event out here this weekend for our competitors and being the first major of 2022?
I think it's pretty cool. When we built the facility, part of the deal with Columbia County was that we would bring events in for economic impact for the community. That's why they invested money into the IDGC. So it's been a great partnership with Columbia County over the years, and it's pretty cool to see all the best in the sport, Disc Golf Network, all the big things happening in the sport, all here in my hometown this week. Broadcasting the tournament, pretty cool.
All right, and then final one then. You speak of your hometown, born and raised in Augusta. There was a little event taking place last week, apparently. Some other kind of golf, I guess you would call it. How many times have you been in the Masters, and what's your experience been like?
Probably too many to count. I was fortunate this year to be able to go to the Augusta National Women's Amateur Finals for the first time. That is a cool event. Amateur women, 16-year-old high school sophomore beat all the best college players in the country. It was really neat. And then I was able to go out to one of the practice rounds earlier in the week. It's neat. Augusta loves golf. Augusta loves disc golf. I mean, selling disc golf in Augusta has always been very easy, and people here have always been very accepting of our sport.
Well, I was going to ask for a send-off or a tagline, but you just said it. Augusta loves golf, and that's what we're here for. Your Hall of Fame member from 2017, Brian Graham, thank you for everything you've done forever. As I said, I go all the way back to 96. You're the face of disc golf here, and we thank you for it. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Disc Golf Network, and come on out and see the tournament this weekend.
All right, everyone. That is your 2022 Champions Cup presser. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Bushnell for your support this weekend. We'll see you tomorrow live on Disc Golf Network.